My moniker is Ava Brown, born and bred in a diminutive, tranquil town on the shore of California. My town isn't vast. Everyone is acquainted, and life here isn't too tumultuous, but sufficient to feel the warmth and familiarity of the surrounding folk. My family isn't wealthy, but perpetually lives joyously. My parents are diligent, affectionate people, always fostering a home brimming with love and concern for my sibling Elijah Brown and me. Elijah is 3 years my senior, and since my early years, he's consistently been my companion and guardian. We harmonize exceptionally well, never experiencing any significant disputes or disagreements. Elijah is a considerate brother, incessantly fretting and caring for me in the minutest details. Whenever I encounter challenges, be it in studies or life, he's present to assist. I recall the days he tutored me in cycling, the instances he patiently sat to clarify each complex math conundrum, or the afternoons we frolicked together in the tiny backyard garden. To me, my brother is not merely a kin, but also a closest friend. Yet, when Elijah reached 18, he had to depart to attend university in the metropolis. This was the inaugural instance my family endured a prolonged absence of a member. Gone were the days we matured together, cavorted in the garden, or sat studying side by side. A void commenced to manifest in the petite abode, particularly for me. The chasm between us wasn't solely spatial, but also in life's cadence. Elijah was now engrossed in his scholarly life while I lingered in town, living in my accustomed tempo. From that juncture, we only reunited on special events, especially during year-end festivities or major holidays. Each reunion, I eagerly anticipated, as if the separation merely amplified our mutual fondness. Perhaps the remoteness rendered us more appreciative of the scant moments united. Every holiday, Elijah invariably procured me presents, minor yet significant tokens, making me sense his solicitude and affection more than ever. Occasionally, it was a tome he knew I'd fancy. Other times, a jacket he chanced upon that befitted me. The day I ready to venture off to college, my heart couldn't conceal the exhilaration. No more extended separations between Elijah and me loomed. I'd be residing proximate to him, sharing instants of collegiate life together, akin to our shared childhood at home. The sentiment of exhilaration and glee enveloped the entire lengthy voyage. As the bus halted at the stop, I gazed out the window, discerning the familiar silhouette of Elijah awaiting. My heart pulsed swifter upon realizing his gaze was on me. The instant I alighted the bus, I couldn't restrain my emotions. I darted straight towards him, abandoning all my baggage. My stride directed towards one sole point, the brother from whom I'd been estranged for so long. Upon touching him, the sensation of all the remoteness seemed to dissipate instantaneously. I hurled myself into his embrace, clutching him firmly. My entire being was enveloped in the security and familiarity only my brother could provide. Elijah laughed softly, ruffled my hair like in our youth, and spoke in a warm tone. "Lily, you've grown but remained childlike." Yet at that moment, age held no significance. I merely knew that proximity to him filled me with joy, no longer separated or yearning for him. That sensation was a relief, akin to reclaiming a part of myself after years apart. After our tight hug, I felt my anxieties and exhaustion vanish. Elijah grabbed my luggage, and together we strolled back to the lodging he'd arranged. The urban streets teemed with activity, unfamiliar to me, but his presence made everything more agreeable. En route, Elijah shared tales of his life there, experiences gathered during his years away from home. I sensed his assurance and maturity, which bolstered my security upon arrival. Elijah led me to his chamber. The room was compact yet cozy, meticulously organized and fully equipped. I discerned his care in every nook, from the desk, the bookshelf to the bed. Everything was tidy, radiating warmth and familiarity. This considerate layout made me feel welcome, as if this space wasn't solely his but also mine, easing my transition to the new surroundings. As siblings, we opted to cohabitate, supporting each other daily. For me, this wasn't merely convenient, but also a great solace entering university life. Having him beside me during this significant change made everything seem simpler, with nothing to fret about. He crafted a sanctuary where I knew I wouldn't face trials alone. However, gradually, I realized life wasn't always as smooth as I'd thought. Initially, everything was typical. We attended school together, dined together, and shared daily anecdotes like at home. Our parents were also pleased we could support each other in our new life. Yet that closeness morphed into complex emotions I struggled to define. Our brotherly bond now held an ambiguity I'd never felt before. Moments sitting adjacent, instances of accidental hand contact felt strange. Our feelings transcended mere familial ties. I found myself entangled in a mix of familiar yet alien emotions I could hardly explain. I attempted to convince myself that these confused feelings were merely a mistake, perhaps due to the environmental shift. However, our closeness deepened, and those feelings increasingly occupied my mind. Living together and sharing so much with Elijah made the sibling distance seem to evaporate. Within me, confusion surged between feelings and morality, between duty and potent emotions. Though I knew it might be wrong, I couldn't entirely control myself. That tension didn't just emerge from me. Elijah, though my brother, was still a man with his own thoughts. Coexisting in the same space with me, a grown woman, also bewildered him. I perceived it through his gaze, through his mannerisms, which further intensified the confusion in my heart. Not only Elijah, but I myself gradually couldn't deny that I was entangled in complex emotions. The intimacy between us, the unconscious repetition of moments, obscured the line between fraternal love. Initially, I attempted to disregard it, tried to convince myself that everything would be fine, but the vortex of emotions and guilt grew, consuming us with no escape. Then one night, the feelings between us reached a new height. After supper and some chit-chat, I retreated to my room and fell asleep, but in the wee hours, a soft noise from the other bed roused me. In the faint light filtering through the window, I saw Elijah still awake, sitting quietly, his eyes filled with something difficult to express. "Elijah, what's wrong?" I inquired softly, my voice still groggily, but unable to hide my confusion. He gazed at me for a moment, then sighed, approached, and sat beside me, his eyes never leaving mine. "I'm uncertain," he said, his voice low and deep. "It's just that I feel something very strange between us." His words startled me. "What do you mean?" I asked again, my heart filled with an inexplicable feeling. He was silent, then gently touched my hand. The touch was warm and tender, as if he wanted to convey something difficult to articulate. "Have you never felt a special bond between us?" he asked softly, his eyes shining with something I had never seen before. My heart was pounding, but I kept my hand still in his. "Elijah, I don't know, but this we shouldn't," I said, trying to remain calm though I couldn't deny the deep feelings between us. Elijah looked at me, his eyes filled with an irresistible attraction. "I understand," he whispered, "but whenever I'm with you, I can't help but feel this feeling. Haven't you ever felt this before?" I couldn't respond immediately, feeling his hand tighten around mine in that silence. I also realized that there was an indescribable connection between us. Our eyes were locked as if everything had disappeared. "Elijah, maybe this isn't meant to be," I said softly, but I didn't avert my gaze from him. "But I can't deny this feeling." He smiled softly, his eyes filled with tenderness. "Neither can I. Sometimes I wonder if these feelings have been there all along, we just never noticed." We let our emotions guide us, sharing a profound moment. The connection was hard to deny in the stillness of the night. We felt the harmony of two souls who had always been together, but had never let these emotions speak. That night we were united, feeling a special bond that neither of us had ever dared to admit. That moment was a synchronization far beyond the boundaries of ordinary siblings. When the sky brightened, we understood that this relationship had transformed into something complicated and difficult to name, not easy to deny. That evening altered everything, from bonding to an undeniable sense of odd fondness. From that point forward, our dynamic shifted dramatically. Whenever we had leisure, we shared intimate moments, exchanging sentiments and compassion that we both valued. That link intensified. It seemed incontestable that the limits had blurred. For the subsequent year, everything proceeded tranquilly. No one in the kin or among acquaintances noticed anything unusual, but as Elijah neared graduation, things began to shift. He secured a position far away, resulting in less frequent encounters. From then on, each reunion, though brief, harbored feelings as profound as before, and distance only intensified them. Life progresses, and I grasped that changes are inevitable. Upon entering my second year of university, I met Henry, the individual who would transform my life forever. When I met Henry, I gradually comprehended that the tie between Elijah and me couldn't endure indefinitely. That was the instant I understood that the affection for Elijah, no matter how deep, would ultimately cease. Henry, then 26, was a promising young entrepreneur. Despite his youth, he had established a solid career, exuding confidence and acumen. Whenever he appeared, Henry always drew others, not only due to his composed demeanor but also his aptitude for resolving everything with wisdom and cleverness. We chanced upon each other at a conference I attended with some companions. Henry was the main speaker, and throughout his talk, I was captivated by his manner and capability to address complex issues. Post-seminar, we fortuitously bumped into each other while exiting. Henry smiled courteously, apologized, and our conversation flowed naturally, as if we were longtime acquaintances. That marked the commencement of our connection. From then on, Henry increasingly appeared in my life, and soon we began dating. Although I still harbored feelings for Elijah initially, Henry's presence grew more pronounced and meaningful. He offered me a sense of stability, security, and tranquility, elements I had always sought. We shared aspirations and ambitions for the future, and Henry made me believe I could construct a fulfilling life with him. After some time together, I realized Henry was the person I could spend my life with. As for Elijah, though my feelings were strong, I understood it was a relationship that couldn't continue. That emotion, though exceptional, had become too intricate and inappropriate. I knew I needed to release and advance to a new life with Henry, the person I believed would bring me joy and a stable future. Confronting reality, I knew I had to sever the emotional ties that had bound us for so long. One afternoon, when Elijah returned for the holidays, I resolved to speak with him. The anxiety weighed heavily on my heart, but I knew this was necessary. I approached Elijah, sat opposite him, and candidly shared all my reflections. I told him about Henry, my sentiments, and the future I envisioned with that man. I also stressed that, no matter how unique our relationship was, it couldn't persist. Elijah listened quietly, his eyes sorrowful but not resentful. He seemed to anticipate this day, and after a moment of silence, he nodded, agreeing it was right to conclude it. Neither of us spoke much more, but we both understood it was time to revert to our appropriate roles as siblings. Though this feeling was difficult, ultimately, I felt relieved we had both made the correct decision. From then on, we gradually returned to a normal relationship like true brothers. Superficially, everything seemed simpler. We no longer mentioned what had transpired, and each time we encountered one another, we maintained a sensible gap, chatting casually as if nothing had occurred. From time to time, we would share meals with our relatives or sit in the lounge watching television, but there was always an intangible quietude between us. Everything appeared steady, but internally, it remained quite delicate. Even though the affair had concluded, I still felt an inexpressible sensation each time our gazes accidentally intersected. I convinced myself that I had progressed, that our bond had reverted to its suitable place, but in actuality, that feeling had never truly faded. Even though it was tranquil on the surface, inside I was still tangled in complex emotions and occasionally tormented. We may have halted, but I had not entirely escaped the haunting of what had transpired. Not long after I completed my degree and Henry proposed, our nuptials took place with the blessings of kin and companions. Elijah was also there, standing quietly at a distance, smiling and congratulating me. Now I have embarked on a new phase in my life with Henry, the person I love and trust, and my life is gradually settling. What happened in the past has now become a lesson, and I recognize that I made the right choice to exit that situation to advance towards a better tomorrow. Through all that I have experienced, I have realized that there are errors we need to confront to grow. Those mistakes have taught me about emotional limits and the significance of upholding principles. Sometimes in life, we are easily drawn into things that are hard to resist, but it is essential to know when to cease, so as not to lose ourselves. I do not seek absolution from anyone because the most crucial thing is that I have faced my mistakes and found a way to rectify them. Henry is a part of this transformation. He helped me understand the value of a genuine relationship where sincerity and enduring love are the foundation of happiness. Thanks to Henry, I realized that not all emotions should exist, and sometimes releasing them is the way to find serenity. After marrying, my life gradually stabilized, and we commenced planning for the future, building a home, and intending to have children. The tale between Elijah and me is now a thing of the past, a part of my memory that I keep deep in my heart. What happened will always be an unforgettable mark, but I have learned to accept and move forward. Elijah and I do not discuss the past, and we both comprehend that the relationship is over forever. Reflecting on my own story, I wish to share a lesson from my painful experiences and difficult decisions. Sometimes we can easily get caught up in emotions that seem uncontrollable, especially when those closest to us become our source of comfort and support. But through all the hardships and mistakes, I realized that maintaining moral values and emotional boundaries is important to protect ourselves and others. There are emotions that are best controlled. Do not let a moment of weakness lead you too far. The important thing is to know when to stop, to move towards the right relationships that bring true joy and peace. I chose to let go, accept this lesson, and advance towards the future with the person I love. That is what I hope everyone can do too.